both David Grusch and filmmaker Dan Farah, whose film The Age of Disclosure released today, have stated today on talk shows, implying, if not outright stating, that there's a strong probability that President Trump will disclose UFOs in the not too distant future. Now, David Grusch stated this on Special Report with Bret Baier on Fox News, and filmmaker Dan Farah stated this on the Joe Rogan Experience. This all happened hours ago. Let's just dive right in.
Joining us now, retired Air Force Major David Grusch, who has been a whistleblower on the subject of UFOs, UAPs, and government transparency. He's a special advisor now to the House UAP Task Force.
That was a great introduction by Bret Baier and allows you to have a full clarity on exactly who David Grusch is. And now we're going to jump right into the amazing things that he stated, because there's a lot to unpack.
So you think, one, he knows, and two, he's open to transparency on UAPs?
He certainly is very well informed on this issue. Leave it at that. I don't want to get ahead of what the president might want to reveal personally.
Notice David Grusch's hesitation. I don't want to get ahead of what the president might want to reveal personally, as if he knows what's happening behind the scenes, but doesn't want to go there prematurely and wants the president and the Trump administration to speak for themselves. This will become more clear in the next clip.
And certainly, I believe there's an appetite with the administration to do the right thing on this as well. And there's some other things that are happening behind the scenes that I'll let the administration discuss when they're ready.
David Grusch, what other things are happening behind the scenes that you'll wait for the administration to discuss when they're ready? It sounds to me that you're strongly implying that the administration is figuring out what to do on this issue, and that the documentary, The Age of Disclosure, is part of that equation. Now, Grusch went on to Special Report with Bret Baier on the same day The Age of Disclosure launched. Is that a coincidence? I don't think so. And as you'll begin to have clarified, there does seem to be a connection between The Age of Disclosure and building pressure on the Trump administration. Dan Farah on the Joe Rogan Experience seems to imply that because of his documentary, there is perhaps some pressure to address it, but also like an opportunity to springboard the administration into increased transparency, what we would call disclosure on the UFO topic.
I wouldn't be surprised, man, if it happens soon after the film comes out. I think a sitting president has to step to the microphone and say, definitively, humanity's not alone in the universe. We have recovered technology of non-human origin. So have other nations. There is a high-stakes secret Cold War race to reverse engineer this technology. We need to win this race, and the U.S. intends to lead in this new chapter. I think that needs to happen, like a level set of basic facts, and I really do think it will happen.
That statement by Dan Farah is not trivial. Why would he go on the Joe Rogan's show and say, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens soon after the film comes out that we get disclosure? Now, you could argue that he's just trying to hype his film, but I'm not sure that would hype his film, because it's about what the Trump administration is going to do. If anything, if nothing comes of his statement, it might put him in a poor light. So the fact that David Grusch said things are going on behind the scenes, and the fact that Dan Farah was so bold to say that he wouldn't be surprised if it happened soon after the film, tells me that they know something about what's going on behind the scenes. And furthermore, I happen to agree that this has to happen, and it would be such a weird disclosure if they made the argument that the reason they had to disclose was because of the Cold War between adversaries on who will be the first to back engineer successfully, or at least more successfully, non-human intelligence craft. What a weird disclosure that would be. It would make disclosure so profoundly terrestrial in a bizarre way. I don't know how I feel about that. Halfway between Twilight Zone and the you-know-what has hit the fan, and I need to put on a special umbrella hat.
Well, if that is going to happen, I think Trump might be the only guy that's willing to do something crazy.
I think it's very likely that he does that.
So Dan Farah went from, I wouldn't be surprised if he disclosed very soon after the film, to it's very likely that he'll do that. These are, like I said, these are not trivial words. These are not things you just pull out of thin air. He's doubling down on that sentiment.
I know that he is aware of the film. I know he's aware of what people in his administration say.
Has he watched it? You know that?
He has not watched the film, but I know he's very aware of it, and I know that they are discussing internally how they're going to react to the film publicly.
Well, there it is. So he said that he knows he's aware of the film. That is, Donald Trump's aware of the film. He knows what the people in his own administration are saying about UFOs. And I think he's referencing maybe particularly what Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, said in the film, who's also the national security advisor to Trump. And he said that they are discussing internally how they are going to react to the film publicly, which means they intend, that is, the Trump administration, according to Dan Farah, intends to react to the film publicly.
And I also know that he has very recently tasked Tulsi Gabbard with getting to the bottom of the situation and finding out for him what he needs to know that he doesn't know.
So why would Trump be tasking Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard to get to the bottom of what he doesn't know? So there's a few possibilities. One possibility is that Trump has a particular interest in the UFO field and wants just to get more information. Another possibility is that it is pertinent to his presidency in terms of governance. And the third possibility is, this kind of aligns with what Grusch said in the Fox News interview, where he said, things are happening behind the scenes with the administration, but I don't want to get ahead of it. It's their job to come forward with it. I think it's the third option. If what Dan Farah is saying is true, I think that the reason he has tasked DNI Tulsi Gabbard to look into it further for him is because he wants all his ducks in a row prior to engaging in disclosure. Now, I know this sounds crazy. I know this sounds too optimistic, but you have to contend with what David Grusch and Dan Farah have stated. You also have to contend with the power of the film that came out today, which was extraordinary. And to add further, you have to contend what James Fox said, I think on November 11th on a podcast. He said that there is a coalition of whistleblowers coming forward who are going to make a plea to Donald Trump, asking him, the president, to remove their NDAs so that they can testify legally to congressional committees. My reading of all of this is that disclosure is not far away. I could be wrong. I'm obviously intentionally choosing an optimistic perspective, but I'm also dealing with real data that is out there. Not my imagination, but real data. What James Fox said, what Dan Farah said, what David Grusch said, and then, of course, the documentary coming out. And maybe we're just hitting a critical mass at this point. Maybe the Trump administration realizes that he'll look really, really bad if he goes his entire presidency and didn't break open the biggest secret in human history. Now, to be fair, Trump has a bit of an ego. Do you think he would leave that on the table? I don't know, but I hope not. And if you want to get relatively paranoid, you could say that he wants to disclose to create a distraction to something else. Sure, presidents have done that before. Regardless, this is looking promising. And I'm going to keep you appraised because, at least according to David Grusch and Dan Farah, something is happening behind the scenes. Disclosure may be imminent. Please do not forget to subscribe. If you'd like to support this channel, you could become a patron, you could become a YouTube member, you could give me a one-time donation. All those potentialities can be accessed in the description box below, or you could just slap a like on this bad boy and I'll appreciate it so much. Thanks so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.